One of my followers educated me this week about the use of the tags pause and gen in online text communication, specifically by people with autism or people who know others with autism, to indicate whether they're being genuine or positive in their comments. This can often be very difficult for people with autism to tell, especially in online communication where you're lacking a number of other gestural and physical and social cues that might indicate like the tone of the person's comment. I think this is a really cool convention, and I want to talk about the linguistics of it. The first thing that came to mind for me with this that might actually be a little discouraging to hear is that this might actually be a really difficult convention to maintain over time. The reason for this is something called semanticization, or maybe semantic bleaching. What happens is that speakers use words or other linguistic conventions to mean something slightly other than their literal meaning. This happens all the time. It's just kind of a normal part of how language works. We have to be able to use words in new ways to kind of express new meaning. For example, when you're hungry and you want to really emphasize how hungry you are, you might not just say, "I'm hungry," you might say, "I'm starving," even though you're not literally starving. And in some languages, what's happened is that the phrase meaning "I'm starving" has come to actually be the phrase meaning "I'm hungry." That's been the case in the Chitimacha language, for example. The way this process works is the context and the connotation that we associate with a word starts to be so strongly associated with it that it becomes its literal meaning. And so that's what I meant by semanticization earlier. It's when this kind of connotation becomes part of the semantics, part of the meaning of a word. Much to people's chagrin, that's probably what's happening with the word literally as well. The word literally is now starting to mean figuratively because people have used literally figuratively so much that it's now semanticized into the meaning. What's that got to do with the pause and gen tags? Well, I suspect that people will probably start using those in their non-literal uses so that their original meaning becomes bleached over time and they undergo that process of semanticization. The second thing I thought of when I've learned about these tags, though, is how similar they are in function to emojis. Emojis are not a form of language, but they are an attempt to represent certain non-linguistic features, such as gesture and intonation and facial expressions, to represent these non-linguistic features in writing. Prior to emojis, all we had were exclamation points and commas to try and attempt to do that. Emojis are a much more robust system of conveying other types of social context and social cues when you're writing. And what's nice about emojis is they're kind of iconic. They often look like the expression that they're indicating. They're not arbitrary like words are. So that makes me wonder if emojis might actually be more useful than some of these pause and gen tags for people with autism. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts and perspectives on this because this isn't my area of expertise.